Welcome to Leadership Matters, a podcast from the Bailey Group. I'm your host, Kaylee Thomsen, president of and partner at the Bailey Group, where we believe better leaders create healthier workplace environments, healthier humans, and a better world. On this show, we explore real stories, practical insights, and honest conversations to help you lead yourself and others better. Thanks for joining us. Let's dive in. Welcome back to Leadership Matters. I'm your host, Kaylee Thomsen, and today I'm joined by Ambra Caruthers. Ambra is the founder and CEO of Accelerated Consulting. Ambra, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Kaylee. I'm really excited to be here and joining the Bailey Group today, so thank you for the invite.
You are absolutely welcome, and I'm so excited to have you here. I would love to start with, by all accounts, you've had an incredibly successful career. You've worked at PepsiCo, Nestle, SC Johnson. What role has coaching or mentorship played in your life?
That's a great question. Thank you for that. I would say throughout my career, at a very young tenure, I was given the opportunity to get a coach and a mentor who has stuck with me for almost 30 years.
Wow.
And through that relationship, I have been able to grow and learn so many facets of the business and increase my business acumen. And without that relationship and that connection, I know that I probably would not be as further along as I am as a leader in my career, because that has been pivotal to me. And I think it's very necessary for people to make connections and have mentorship throughout their career, because it helps you grow, it stretches you, and it helps you be a better person, a better professional. And that is what has been successful for me in my career.
How has that experience impacted how you think about leading and mentoring your people?
Yeah, that definitely resonates with me because I'm extremely passionate about leadership, and I'm passionate about others and helping them find their potential. And so someone took the time to invest in me, and I want to do the same. I'm the product of a successful mentorship or connection or network. And so I want to be able to do that for others and see them grow. That to me is a little piece of who I am and makes me feel very grounded and very humble when I can see others, pursuing their careers and aspirations professionally and personally. That is a great reward for me.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
Bring us back to a moment in your journey where you faced some adversity and how it impacted the person who's sitting here now.
Wow. So you're taking me back here for a moment. But I would say, I think adversity, I was a teenage mom, and that was very rough for me in that time. And I also was a high school dropout to take care of my daughter and my family. And so that adversity gave me a lot of ambition to want to see, do, and be more as a person and professionally long term. And so I think adversity helps us pursue and drive towards something. In those moments, they change who you are, but for the good. You're either going to excel or you're going to learn from something. Either way, it's growth. And to me, that's what's important when you come up with those or have those adversity times, that you take it, learn, and grow from it, and look back, reflect, and see how you can help others in those moments or support them through those moments. I think that's key.
What did you learn about yourself through becoming a teenage mom and high school dropout and really persevering through that season?
I think that's a really good question. I would say I learned that everyone's journey is different, I think is the main point. I think the second point is, as leaders, as people, we all, um, I wouldn't say make mistakes, but I believe we all make choices that may not always line out to what we thought they were going to be. But the difference is what you do in that moment or what you learn, as I said earlier, that will help propel you to do and be something different and greater. And I think for me, when that time happened, I could have been a statistic or I could learn and I could grow. And I did just that. I put myself through school all the way through my MBA. And I started to become an entrepreneur and start my own business with my husband and I. And I started my own consulting company. And I think that those learnings, that reflection, has helped grown me to who I am today. It's been a piece of who I am. It's part of my DNA of growing and learning and building
Mm.
through all of those things.
So well said.
Thank you.
I know your work ethic is absolutely a critical ingredient in all of your success. And having heard some of the insane hours that you've worked over different chapters of your
Yes.
career, I'm wondering where that drive and ambition and work ethic comes from.
That's a great question, Kaylee. Thank you for that. I think my work ethic and ambition has come from just wanting to see and be something different than how I grew up. I wasn't taught, finances, investment. And so when I started to work at corporations and learn business and financial acumen and how organizations worked, I started to apply that to my daily life of this is how I can build this capital, or here is how I can create equity for myself and my own assets. And those moments in my career helped me propel. And so I wanted to learn more and I wanted to read. So I started researching, I started reading books. And I was very curious and I started to ask questions. One of my favorite books is by John Maxwell, Good Leaders Ask Great Questions. And I started to be curious and ask questions. And it just, as I asked questions, I started to want more for myself. So I thought the only way to do that is through hard work and through building a portfolio for myself professionally and personally. And so it just became inherent. And long term, I wanted a different life for my family and for my children. And so I knew to do that, I needed to put the time in, I needed to put the work in, and not just through other organizations, but that I can do it on my own and I can be a CEO
Mhm.
of a company, or I could be a co-founder on a business with my husband. And so all those things gave me ambition to continue to strive
Mm.
for greatness and whatever that capacity looked like for us. And that's what it became. So
Yeah. So many lessons are learned along the way. I'm wondering if you can take us back to an earlier version of Ambra and some of the early mistakes.
oh goodness. So I made so many. Think about
I was gonna
that.
say, have you made any?
Goodness, I can count them on both hands and toes. But I would say one of the mistakes, I think younger in my career as a leader, um, I did not utilize advocacy and building networks. I didn't understand why they were so important. I thought, come to work, you do a good job, you go home. That was how I thought professional life worked. And there's so much more to work than just that, right? And I think the mistake I made was just doing that. And in the background, I wanted to progress in my career. And that's half the battle, not just being a good work employee, but how are you connecting with stakeholders?
Mhm.
How are you influencing others? And how are you creating space and name for yourself outside of the rooms that you are in? And that was pivotal to me in my career. And so I started to see me progress sooner, quicker, people speaking for me and recommending me for roles. My mentor, he moved me around a couple of companies because he would go to places, get promoted, and then he would call and say, Ambra, hey, will you come work for me at this organization? You were able to prove and do this and that. And then I would get there and then I would have to build and influence the stakeholders that I was with and prove to them what he said that I could be and who I was as a leader. And so those mistakes early on helped me be a different leader and grow as a leader through those mistakes, because that I think people don't take that seriously enough in an organization of building that network, building that advocacy, and working with others it's key to success. If you want to progress in your career, you have to build a network that will help you get there because you can't do it alone. Those are the things that I think about when I think about some of the mistakes that I've made.
What have been some of the biggest challenges to building those networks?
I would say knowing how to form the relationships, I think is key. I think we oftentimes think it's just work related, and it's not. It's getting to know the person themselves. Um, People that I work with, my employees, I want to know who they are. When I first start a role, no matter where I'm at and what company I'm in, I spend the first 60 days meeting every employee. And I want to know about them and their families, whatever they're willing to share with me, because I want to be able to come back and say, hey, how was your son today? Or how was the game with the kids? Or how's your grandmother doing? How's her health? I was thinking about her. That resonates with people. When you create a safe space for people, you can start to build those relationships. And I think that's very powerful. And I think the other piece is after you do that, then you need to start to help them see how they can use their skills and their talents to progress. But half the battle is getting to know them and building that relationship. And when you do that and make those connections, people want to connect with you. They want to be around you. They know that you're a human, you're a person, before you're someone who wants to ask them to do something. Because before I ask you to help me, you want to know who I am, right? You don't want me to just say, "Hey, Ambra, can you do X for me?" I want to say, "Hey, Kaylee, how was this? What did we do? And hey, I'm having a challenge, and I need some support, or I need a thought partner on how I get this done." People are more receptive to connect with you when they know you versus just you coming up asking them to do something for them. I think we miss that so much as a leader.
Is that something you've learned over time, or has that been a pretty innate gift of yours?
I would have to say, I'm super extroverted. And so I love to connect with people. I love to, have conversations. So I would say it's a balance. I think I've always had that in me, but I've had to learn to grow into that. Especially in spaces where maybe I'm the only woman in the room, or, I may not have any experience with any of these other colleagues of mine. So the way I break the ice, I may come in and make a joke about a sock or something. Hey, I love your striped socks. Tell me where you got them, right? And just break the ice of making a connection with people. And be fearless. Like, I think the power of getting to know people in relationships is being fearless. When you are fearless and you just go in a room and you work the room, it makes a difference. I want to leave a lasting impression everywhere I go. I want people to say, "Who was she? I connected with her. Oh, wow. I want to get to know her some more." So
Yeah.
that is important to me. I want to leave a little piece of me everywhere I go.
I love that. I know you've hired countless individuals. Take us back to some hiring mistakes that you've made and lessons you've learned.
Oh, goodness. I think if you don't admit where you make a mistake, I'm not sure you could be authentically a true leader, right? And I think that in my career, at times, I have wanted to hire someone to just have a body versus taking the time to find the right fit for the role, for the business, and ultimately for that person. And I think as a leader, what we need to do is really take a step back and say, this person may have the experience, they may have the education, but how are they going to thrive in our culture and in this environment? And are they willing to learn and grow and stretch to be able to do so? And versus, I need someone to feel this today. These are the pressures and these are the complexities of the organization or my company. And I just need to move forward. It costs you time, it costs an organization money when you don't have the right fit. And I think that's really important. And so I've had to learn that over my career is take the time to find the right fit,
Mm.
both for the person and for the company.
So now you're finding that right fit every time you hire.
I try to.
Okay.
I've had still some challenges throughout that. Because you just never know. I think in the moment you feel and you make a connect.
Yeah.
An interview is, an hour, right? And sometimes it's an hour with 2 to 3 different people, so you only get a snippet of someone, who they are. what they like in that moment. And so interviews take a chance. You are taking a chance on a person and they're taking a chance on that organization. And sometimes it feels right in the moment. But as you start to learn the skill and as you start to learn the work, it still may not have been what that person thought, and or they may not show up the way we thought they were going to show up. And so all those things are okay. I mean, yes, it's frustrating, but it's okay. And I want to create an environment where people are happy and they can be themselves and we create a safe space for learning and growing. Ultimately, you get the best out of a person when you can do that. They show up themselves, and they show up as good as they can, and you're going to get the best work ethic out of them as a whole when you do those things. So that's what's ultimately important.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Now, you've been managing people for a couple of decades.
Since I was 18.
I won't say exactly how many decades, but
It's been a while.
more than you might assume.
Yes.
Since you're 18. Wow.
Yes.
What were some of the first people management skills that you learned? I mean, I'd imagine that's pretty intimidating going into that at such a young age.
I think the biggest thing I learned, so at 18, I would say it was learning how to manage friends. And I didn't have training on that. When I took the role over at 18, I had a high school friend that worked for me. And I didn't necessarily know how to manage that connection, that relationship. She has known me for years, right? Through school, family, friends, outside of work. And now I am her leader telling her, you need to do this, and you need to do that. And so that dynamic was really challenging for me. But what I will say, a really critical moment for me is when I worked for Pepsi. So a little shout out to Pepsi. I had the best training, and the training was don't treat people the way you want them to be treated, the way you want to be treated. You treat them the way they want to be treated. That training was so invaluable, and it changed my perception and perspective for how I connect with people, because the way I want to be treated may not be the way you want to be treated, the way you want to connect, the way you want to communicate. And so I had to stop. And so I said earlier, when I take a new role, I meet with every person. As I meet with them, I ask them some unique questions that maybe others don't. I may ask them, how do you want to communicate? How do you want me to communicate with you? Are you a texter? Are you a Teams person? Do you want me to, call you, or my leader? I'm asking them some of the same questions. What's your leadership style? How do you thrive? Or what helps you be motivated when you have a leader that does X? You tell me. And I want to understand that, because my role as a leader is to adjust my style to be an effective leader, not a right leader. I want to be an effective leader. And I think those are really key and really, really critical in your role as a leader. So those are some of the things that, I've done, and they have helped me along the journey significantly. But that training was awesome. It definitely has changed how I view and how I connect with others.
Can you give a specific example of a time when you've leveraged that to communicate across difference?
Absolutely. So I would say, so I had currently in the current company I work for, in corporate America, I have 4 different types of managers. One manager is all data driven. She's super motivated by data. And so if I come to her and say, how was your weekend? She doesn't want to know how her weekend, she doesn't want to tell me. Like, it's okay, right? She wants to know, what do you need from me? When do you need it by? And how do I help get it? So I adjust my style with her to say, okay, this is what I need from you. I need it by this date. Is there anything you need from me? And I always lead with that. How can I help support you to get what I need from you, but vice versa, so you can help get what you need from me? I have another leader. She only wants to talk about her day, her children, and all that. So before I lead with, hey, we have this challenge in revenue, or we have this, I'm going to take the time to connect with her about her weekend and how her son, he plays basketball, and her daughter is in dance. And so we make those connections and we talk through the weekend. We talk through the challenges, all kinds of stuff. And then I say, hey, and oh, by the way, by Wednesday, can we get X? Very effective. And I have one who's a little bit of both. But it depends on the day. She has a lot of things going on. And so I kind of feel out how her day's going. And I may say, and I know certain days of the week she has to pick her son up or she has to do X. So I adjust when I make the connection with her,
Mhm.
and then what I say and how I say it. Or I allow her to come to me with the challenge of, hey, I noticed this. We need to make a change here. And so she thrives. And so when I adjust that style with those different individuals, it makes all the difference. They feel autonomous. They feel that they have control and are empowered to be able to do their work, and they feel connected to me and to the organization. And I think as leaders, we need to recognize that. How do you become a situational leader, and how do you adjust your style to be effective for your teams?
Mhm.
That makes all the difference in the world, and it resonates with people, and they remember that. And it's important to them. So.
You've been in a lot of different organizations with what I'd imagine are a variety of different cultures. Can you talk about some of the cultures that have resonated most with you without naming specific names, and also talk about some where you realized, oh my goodness, this is definitely not a cultural fit for the person that I am?
The organizations that I've thrived in have had a culture of putting their people first and investing in their people. And I think that is what resonates with me and what's very important. In organizations where it's been a challenge, I would say, is when it's not about people, it's about all productivity and all about efficiency and performance. And people are last. And I think we miss the boat of people are the ones that do the work, and so we need to invest and support them versus we need to hit a number. We know we need to hit a number. We know we need to hit revenue and EBITDA and growth and all of those things. But you get the most out of people when you connect with them and you make it about them, not just about that. So you have to have a balance in how you do that. And I think that's been the challenge. And in those organizations where people were not priority, unfortunately, I've made decisions to transition, and I'm okay with that because it wasn't a good fit for me. Maybe for someone else, right, who is thriving and data and performance driven. I am all those things, but those are not the most important
Yeah.
to me. People are the most important. I'm passionate about that, and if I can't create that environment in a space that I spend most of my time more than I do with my family, then I can't work there.
Yeah. Your passion for people is palpable. I know that you've said before that you're so enthusiastic about helping your team members reach their potential. Where does that passion come from?
I would say it comes from my humble beginnings and the adversities and the things that I have been through at such a young age. But the other piece is people have invested in me. I
Mm.
have, 5 different mentors, coaches throughout my career that I still have a connection with. And so to know that those connections have helped me be the leader that I am today, the woman that I am today, even in some personal cases, the mother and the wife that I am today. Um, I want to be able to do that. My goal as a leader is to leave a legacy
Mm.
for others. And even if they never came back to me and said, Ambra did X for me, I know they know I created a space for them to grow, to build, to lead. And that is what gives me the passion and the thrive to know that I'm making an impact in someone else's life. And I think that that's what's really important in any, it should be what's important to a leader
Mm.
as a whole, beyond all the other things that we sometimes put in front of that.
If you were to go back and give an earlier version of yourself some advice, what comes to mind?
I would say live fearlessly.
Mm.
I would say not to be afraid to be ambitious, to make mistakes, and to lead in whatever that capacity is, um, and bring others along with you.
Mm.
I think that I learned that later on in my career, and I didn't take a job opportunity out of fear. Out of the country, I had a couple opportunities there. Um, there was a promotion that I thought I should have gotten and I didn't get, and I didn't learn from that.
Mm.
in my earlier career as a leader. And so had I had the wisdom that I have today,
Yeah.
I would have taken the time to build on those areas of opportunity for myself, and grow and be fearless. And I would just step out there and do more. I probably would have been an entrepreneur a lot sooner, if I'm honest with you.
Sure.
And I would have not focused so much on title
Mm.
and position earlier on in my career, because all those things will come
Mhm.
in time. But what's lasting is people. What's
Mm.
lasting is the connecting. And that's what's missing, I think, in leadership.
Mhm.
We think that people, they work for us. No, they don't. They're working for themselves, actually. If we think about it, they're working for their families. And they're coming to work every day to do just that. Our job is to create a space for them to do it in a way that it's enjoyable, that's empowering, and that's long lasting. And they can walk away with a piece of something different for themselves and or a future somewhere else if that's the case. And I know that's not a popular statement that people or companies want to hear, but it's truly the reality of it. And I think if we can do that more in our organizations and our companies, we'll see retention last longer. We will see people happier at work. We will win the best great place to work awards, when we can balance that beyond the performance piece of it. And I think leadership matters, like podcasts like this, I think is really important for people to pause, reflect, and say, how can I be a better leader? It does matter how I'm connecting with others. It does matter, how I'm making an impact and influence with the people around me, whether they're a direct employee or indirect employee. How I show up every day is a reflection of me. And if I don't show up in a way that's authentic, that's professional, that's genuine, and that can influence others, then I'm not showing up as a leader that I should be.
Mm. What are some of I love your emphasis around continuous improvement and growth and this learning mindset. What are some of the areas you're thinking about or growing into yourself right now?
I think the things that I'm growing in, like in this season in my life, um, I am looking to build a space, a company, um, for myself, but also for others. Like community is really important to me, and people invested in me in my early career and throughout my career. And so how do I help give back? I am a huge advocate of, teenage mothers and women going back to school and all those things. And so I give back a ton. Like my friends, I'm always, when we're talking and connecting, I'm like, what do you want to do? What do you want to be when you grow up? And they're like, I really don't know. My one friend, she is amazing at like vacations. And if you needed to go somewhere, she would go and, build out your whole itinerary. And so I said to her, maybe you should go and do this full time. And she was like, no, I really don't want to do that. I'm like, but you spend so much time and you're really, really good at it. She started her own business.
Wow.
And now she's doing that. And so for me, if I can make an impact in someone else's life, that's what's important. So I want to build while those around me in my community are building. And I want others to make an impact. And so I spend time giving back. I do community service work. I do nonprofit work all over in the Midwest of Illinois, because that's what's really important. Not the career, not the title, not the job, but am I making that legacy lasting impression with the community that I'm around? And so that's what I'm doing as a continuous improvement within myself, but making an impact around the people around me.
Incredible. And again, I go back to the question of, and I don't say this to oversimplify, but you have such a full life. It is amazing to me how you do so much.
It is, and it's not easy. I just, I actually, first of all, I'm a workaholic, and that's a good and a bad thing. I know, but
Say more about that. Why do you refer to yourself or identify as a workaholic?
well, I thrive honestly in space where I can constantly make an impact.
Mm.
I need to be able to make an impact. I am not someone who sits and wait for opportunity or wait for someone to tell me something. I utilize what I would say a underutilized skill, which is creating a space of curiosity. And when I create a space of curiosity, I ask myself and others questions. And when I can't figure it out, I'm going to figure it out, if that makes
Mm.
sense. And so that's in that space, me sitting still, I can't grow.
Mm.
1 times 0 is what?
0.
Is 0, right? So I can't multiply and I can't increase if I'm just sitting still. So workaholic for me is not 80 hours a week anymore, right? As I've grown, but it's being busy in a space that's creating revenue or growth or space or connections with me and others and or my family.
Mm.
So when I say I'm a workaholic, it's not a traditional workaholic where I'm working all those hours. I am when I'm up at night, I'm not on TikTok all night long,
Mhm.
right? I am, what's the next business venture for my husband and I?
Mhm.
Or what's the next investment that we can do to grow our money in this space? So I'm constantly working to elevate, to grow, to achieve, to build. Those things are what's important to me. And if I'm sitting still, I'm not moving and I'm not going to sit still. I'm not a person that's going to sit still. So that's what I love and what motivates me is to continue to grow. And it may take me, 3 years to get there or 5 years to get there. But if I'm progressively moving towards something, then I know that I'm growing. And that's what's important. I'm never content with staying where I am.
Mhm. How long have you known that about yourself?
Probably, I would say maybe the last 15 years is where I've recognized that it's not okay to just sit stagnant in any capacity of my life. And so when I recognized that, like I was like sitting at home and I had a remote role and I couldn't do it. And I was like, "Oh my goodness." And some people love it and that works for them. But for me, I was like, "What am I doing? I need to do this. I need to get this done."
Mm.
I need it. And I miss the connection with people and being in the space. Now, do I want to do it 5 days a week still? No. Let's be clear. I want that hybrid balance, right? But I need those things. And so about 15 years ago, I recognized I needed to elevate what I was doing. So within that 15 years, my husband started his lawn care landscape business.
Mm.
I started my consulting business. And then we also launched our fragrance line. And so we are doing a little bit of everything and we get our hands in a little bit of everything. And all of that is great because it keeps me motivated, it keeps me growing, it keeps me moving.
Amazing. I'm so glad you brought the term workaholic into the conversation. I think there's maybe some trepidation around the term or hesitance to use it. I'm and it's one that like in certain seasons has definitely resonated with me, quite frankly. I'm curious, we've talked about some of the ways that that's really served you. Have there been seasons along the way where it's gotten you into trouble?
I wouldn't say trouble, but I will say it's created levels of frustration
Mm.
and turmoil to the point that I disassociated myself with an organization because of it. So I was a traditional workaholic in a time in my career, and I was working those 80 hours a week, right? Um, I neglected my family. I neglected the games with my children and different things, all in the name of if I work really hard, I will get to this goal, right?
Mm.
Um, and I will never forget this story that we were on vacation and we were at a beach. And you can tell how long this has been because I had my Blackberry as the phone. Okay. And so I had
What's
my,
a Blackberry?
I know, Blackberry, what? So I had a Blackberry with me, and my husband told me, don't bring my work phone to the vacation. And I snuck it in the bag and I kept it with me. And I was checking emails and stuff on my Blackberry. He grabbed the phone, true story, threw it in the ocean. Sorry to the company that had to give me a new phone. But he threw it in the ocean and he said to me, "You have to let it go. Like,
Mm.
this is our time." And yet I was so consumed with work, I couldn't turn it off.
Mm.
And I think when you're a workaholic in the traditional way and you can't turn it off and you can't make an adjustment to spend time with your family, that's when it becomes too much, right? And I had a pivotal moment in my life where I had a nerve condition And I didn't tell you this story, but I had a nerve condition on the left side of my face, and my quality of life was horrible. I couldn't work. It was almost like I had a stroke, if you will. But in the moment that I couldn't work and I couldn't perform, guess what that company did? They gave me my short-term disability and I was off work for a while, but they kept going forward. And I got the epiphany super clearly that brick and mortar, they're going to be here. They were there for 100 years, that organization. They're going to be there 100 years after I leave. But I get one life. I have one life to live with me, my family, my friends. And if I'm going to give all of that of me to an organization and I have nothing left to give my own, what kind of life am I living and what kind of example am I leaving for my children, my family? And so it was in that moment that really made me look at things differently. Do I still give 150% at work? Absolutely, but not at the expense of my family and my personal happiness. I'm not willing to give that away. And I think that that's okay. And I think the more we do that in organizations, the better things will be. For an example, you shouldn't feel guilty when you have to take vacation. Like, how many of us take vacation? My colleagues that are European take 2, 3 weeks at a time and they don't feel guilty at all. And I love they taught me how to truly vacation, okay? Because I take my week as an American and literally I'm like, oh my God, I need to get back with this. And they're like, no, we're taking 2 to 3 weeks at a time. We'll see you when we get back. And I was like, I'm not living. Like, if I feel guilty for taking the time that I've earned, then I'm not doing something right. So it's just those little moments, I think, that help shift things for us, or at least for me, it shifted my mindset to think differently and to put things in perspective of what's important.
What made it most difficult to set down some of the need to constantly be on, available, working?
As loosely as we say this, the work is always going to be there.
Mm.
And when I came to the conclusion that no matter how many hours I work, no matter how much I focus on this particular project or what have you, it's always going to be there and it's never going to go away. And when I complete that, guess what? The next task on the list is coming. And so I had to help myself understand that balance is key.
Yeah.
And even though I'm giving 150%, am I giving it in a way that's really healthy for myself and for the organization? And so that is, I think, a point that made me think things also differently about that is it's never going to go away. Now, how I choose in the moment to address it, how I choose in the moment to complete it is what can change. And, but why focus all that time and effort to burn out myself and not be as good and healthy as a person, as a leader, as a mother, as a wife I can be if I'm doing all of that? Because guess what? That's why people don't leave companies. Sometimes they leave people, and it's because of how people treat them. And if we treat them in a way that all we care about is work, 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 get this done versus the person that they are, that's when they transition, and that's when our retention is higher and our turnover, or our retention is lower and our turnover is high because of those things.
The nerve challenge, was that Bell's palsy?
It wasn't. I had a nerve condition called trigeminal neuralgia, and we all have 3 trigeminal nerves on each side of our face, in our chin and our cheek and our head.
Okay.
And they're like these main nerves. I am not a doctor. Let me preface that for a moment. So if I say anything wrong, I apologize. But what I've learned through the diagnosis, there's these trigeminal nerves, and they're really, if I like simplify it, it's a big nerve that all your small nerves connect to. So on the left side of my face, I didn't know at the time, my nerves got twisted up to the big trigeminal nerve.
Wow.
And it caused this severe pain and caused this like nerve paralysis on my face and on the left side of my body.
Oh.
And it happened haphazardly. I was traveling in Mexico, and I was in Mexico City, and I went to Toluca, Mexico. And I was at one of our facilities, and it happened like a stroke, if you will. And I couldn't talk. I couldn't do anything. And it was excruciating pain, like someone was beating me in my face. And the nurse that was at the facility, she couldn't speak English, but she was learning to read it, and I couldn't speak because I couldn't talk. So I was writing what was wrong. So it was perfect, the connection. And she took me to, when I described what was going on, she took me to a neurologist in Mexico City, and he diagnosed me with that. I came back to the States, and my neurologist also confirmed that diagnosis. And I battled that for about a little over 2.5 years of just pain and, my quality of life, just medication, and it just had me drowsy. I couldn't drive, I couldn't work. And I end up having what they call, it's not true, but it's brain surgery, where they go in the back of your head, pull your face back, and they had to reconstruct all the nerves on the left side of my face. And I've been great almost 10 years now. It's been very humbling to have to go through that experience, and especially with someone who's super ambitious as I am, and always on the go and different things like that. And it was a moment where I had to stop, pause, and I had to take care of myself, and I had to think about what's important. And I didn't know at the time, but I thought, oh my God, this could be the end of my life. So I needed to focus on my family. Now I hope that that's not someone else's journey, right? Where something critical like that happens. But it did help me think about those things of, we get one life to live, right? How are you going to choose to live it?
What a gift in retrospect.
Yes.
I'm sure you would wish it upon no one.
No one.
And the
Absolutely.
ways that it put things into perspective for you
Mhm.
are very evident.
Absolutely.
Mm. This has been such a rich conversation.
Thank you.
What feels important for you to speak to the leaders out there listening right now and just trying to navigate a challenging dynamic in 2026?
I would say to the leaders out there, I think it's our responsibility to help develop and build potential in others. And I don't know that we take the time to do that as much. Um, and we get so focused in the everyday to day lives of and the performance of things. And I think if we take a step back and know that our job is developing others, our job is to see them grow. And through that, the output is performance. If we change the dynamic of how we show up as leaders, if we take the time and investment, because it takes time and investment to impart in someone else, see and grow them truly in a way that will help them build, and not just a 9 box of where they fall on a talent matrix or a performance review if they hit your numbers or not, but truly make an impact in their lives. We will see more and more people grow and become the leaders that they want to be, whether it's in a promotion or it's just showing up in their role differently, and people around them see the change and people around them are excited about being with them. So I think that is what our leaders are missing in this 21st century in 2026. And we need to spend the time to do that more. And we will see a shift in our companies. We will see a shift in our people. And we will ultimately see the shift in how they deliver and how they execute.
Thank you for that. Ambra, this has been incredible. I really appreciate you being here with me today.
Okay, and I appreciate the opportunity. This has been lovely to be a part. Thank you for allowing me to be my authentic self and share and be transparent. This was very comfortable and a safe space, and I'm very grateful to have been here.
Well, thank you for that. That means a lot. And your story is such an inspiring one. And I appreciate you taking the time in your very, very busy life to share it with the world.
Thank you.
And thank you to our listeners. Join us next week for another episode of Leadership Matters. Thanks for joining us for today's episode of Leadership Matters. If today's episode resonated with you, would you do me a favor and share it with someone you care about? To learn more about the work the Bailey Group is doing in the world, check us out at thebaileygroup.com or follow us over on LinkedIn. We love sharing useful articles, helpful resources, and valuable tools to help you expand your leadership capacity. Like and subscribe, and join us next time for more honest conversations.